I don't think the media finds it disgusting. Here's a little example of how they reacted. You're going to be shocked. Watch it.
And the judge threatening the ex-president with jail time.
It is really clear that the judge is, depending on the seriousness of the next violation, contemplating putting him in jail. I mean, and frankly, if that happens, it's not going to be because of anything Judge Merchan did. It's going to be Donald Trump's own choice.
I know from my own reporting, I'm sure you do too, that Trump didn't eat on foreign trips because he was so afraid of germs. There's no way Trump himself wants to go to jail.
Certainly not many black defendants who, if they came this close to the line, would have already been held in contempt of court and would have been incarcerated by now. I mean, so he is getting the dewest of process. And
the idea that Donald Trump actually would want to go to jail is ridiculous. Anyone who knows him knows that. He doesn't even like to stay in a hotel.
He won't eat food when it goes on foreign territory.
Right.
You have to use the bathroom. His hair, his makeup, his skin, like he will be pulled apart. He doesn't have the metal to do it. So Donald Trump is terrified. You've got to believe just by his issues with odors and smells and fear of disease.
He threw down the gauntlet. If he doesn't throw Trump in jail, he would look entirely like a paper tiger. And Trump got that message.
How much bravado. This is not somebody who's thinking, and I'm going to have a really great time at Rikers.
Can I just make this the point in the program when we say none of this is normal?
Oh, my God. Honestly, Nicole Wallace is the worst. She's the worst. Well, she barely moves her lips when she's speaking. She barely has, it's just like a little hole that words come out of. I can't quite get it. It's like and she's so sanctimonious, Vivek. She can't, she doesn't know anything. She knows nothing about what Trump's habits are when he travels overseas. None of them does, but they want to pretend like they're in the room with him, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the dining room with Trump, and they can tell you exactly how he's going to respond if he gets a day in jail.
Well, look, she knows nothing about Donald Trump's habits. She probably knows even less about the law or an understanding or care about that as well. Right. And I think that manner of speech is really funny. I don't, like to pick on these minor details, but you actually hit the nail on the head there. It's all part of this air of sanctimony, right? The air, the vibe of authority without actually having any of the content of that authority. And I think that's what so many in the modern media have actually become, is the air, the genteel sort of atmospherics of having authority and the manner that you speak, the sanctimony that drips from it, but without having the first basis of an understanding of how the law or the Constitution works. And so it's completely backwards versus somebody who actually didn't speak with the right mannerism, but actually knew what they were talking about. That would be far preferable to me. Now, the schadenfreude, the level of rejoicing in somebody else's suffering, I've never seen something like this, but we know that's exactly what we're to expect here from the media. They've been playing for this for a long time. The entire plot has been to really portray Donald Trump as a criminal. That's been, I think, a big part of the Democratic Party's goal in this objectionable pursuit of prosecutions against him. So it's no surprise that the media has played interference for them on so many other topics, is going to run interference here as well. I think that's the less interesting part than to examine what is exactly the consequence here. Let's say Donald Trump is, God forbid, I think it'd be bad for the country, but thrown in jail. I do think that they've kind of put themselves in a box here because Donald Trump believes, I believe correctly, that this is an affront to the Constitution. He has a right to speak in the middle of an election. He's running to lead this country to be the commander in chief. So for him to buckle at behest of what this judge, who has no regard for the law or the Constitution on this set of issues, I think would be a bad outcome. So I think Donald Trump should continue to express his opinions because he's running for U.S. president, and both he and the country deserve to hear his opinions on a matter of public importance. But the judge has now put himself in a box, going out of his way. He didn't have to do this, but going out of his way to be able to threaten jail time. I think that is something that unfortunately sets this up as a reasonably likely outcome. And you know what? Donald Trump's made a lot of sacrifices for the country, running for president, serving as U.S. president. This wouldn't be the biggest of them. And so I think it would set a terrible precedent. I think it's going to be bad for the country. But I think it is reasonably likely that it does end up there. And as sad as that is, it's exactly what you would predict. Once you've opened Pandora's box with these prosecutions based on really no figment of a legal theory to back it up against a former president and a man running for U.S. president in the middle of an election, this is just the necessary consequence and all the drama that follows. It's unfortunately what they signed up for in the first place. And I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to see in the next 6 months.
They're thrilled about it because they want his humiliation. That's what you heard them talking about, well, how, he's not going to be able to have his hair the way he wants it. They want his humiliation. That's why they were so angry that he leaned into his mugshot and went on the mugs and it went on T-shirts. And so they're waiting for him to be humbled, to be humiliated. And they keep waiting for the next chapter. Maybe Judge Merchan will get him there when he throws him behind jail bars and we can watch that and revel. The media, of course, has been a massive problem. You experienced it when you were running and before and after. This is a small ball story, but it's indicative. There was a reporter for NBC News, then she moved on to CNN. Her name is Michelle Kaczynski, and she posted a thread on X last night. She was very well known at both of those outlets. A thread on X last night revealing her horror at a dinner she recently had with people who turned out to be MAGA. At first, she said, they seemed great on the surface for like an hour. And then, she says, the closeted guests over a few drinks began to slip their true MAGA natures. And she says, she marvels at how a, quote, normal group of people could support a politician like Trump, of whom she does not approve, going here from the Daily Mail report. One of the couples attended top Ivy League colleges, she writes, but now that it was university time for their own children, they were adamantly not letting them apply to any Ivies and were weird about explaining why, though the kids were double legacies. Okay, moving on. She criticizes their position on, quote, climate change and the fact that they use that term in air quotes, not scientists, clearly, and goes on from there. Now, Vivek, this is a woman who I've been around in the media long enough to remember, left NBC, was pushed out, I believe, shortly after the following incident, which went everywhere. She was doing a report on flooding after a hurricane in some American town, and she did the report from a canoe as though she was stranded. This is the only way to get around. And in the middle of her live shot, firefighters walked through the live shot with the water up to their ankles. We actually pulled the clip just to show you. I mean, this is the dishonest media in a snapshot. Watch this.
NBC's Michelle Kaczynski, I guess she's in the canoe, is in Wayne, New Jersey this morning.
Hey,
Michelle, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, obviously we're getting a nice break from the rain, but not the flooding. This is essentially now a part of the Passaic River in this neighborhood.
Well, I'll take it. Is there some kind of severe drop-off there between the foreground? We'll go back. We saw these guys a second ago, Michelle, walking. Are these holy men walking on top of water? What's going on here?
Why walk when you can ride, you guys? When you have a ride like this, why would you want to walk?
Is your oar hitting ground, Michelle?
Of course not.
That was the end of her career. That's my opinion. At NBC, she was gone shortly there. Now she wants to lecture us all on how evil MAGA is and her horror at being exposed to the closeted Republicans and their views on the Ivies and climate change and so on. What do you make of it?
You know, the people at that dinner party remind me probably likely of the firemen who were just walking right past her, people who actually probably had something more worthy to do, that were actually there for a purpose, had little regard for her presence there or whatever antics she was taking on. And, you know, that probably looks like a woman who's been doing this her entire career. So it seems like the same pattern continues. This is a big part of the reason there's a lot of things I'm looking at doing with my time, but relaunching a podcast, why am I going to take the time to do that is, this gives me a motivation to exactly engage in the kind of conversations that American people are hungry for, regardless of what the mainstream media is stuffing down their throats. And I think it just typifies how the whole thing has actually become a charade. It's not just a sort form of lying, Megyn. I think mainstream media has lied about a whole range of topics, and I've talked about this extensively during the race. You've talked about it extensively for the last 10 years. Nonetheless, I think it's not just the lie, it's the pageantry around the lie that I think is actually far more bothersome. It's a production. It's almost like it's not just a lie. A lie is anymore pretending to be that you're in the interest of objective news, but you're telling somebody false information. I think it's become closer to like a Broadway production in the same way that she's putting on a show. She recognizes, and they're even talking about it on air, why would you walk when you could instead be pretending to row? That's effectively what they're doing in the totality of their other reporting too, is she could just be talking about the actual disagreements, the policy disagreements that she has between Republicans who are in that same room. And there's such a more interesting direction to go. It's like the equivalent of if she had just been reporting and interviewing those firemen. But instead, what they're actually creating is an alternative production that, I think historically that business, maybe they think they're entertaining their audience, but it isn't even entertaining anymore. And I think that once you see that, you get closer to the flame of what's going on. It's not just they're spewing falsehood. It's like the equivalent of putting on a theatrical production, and one that, like most theatrical productions, is failing. And I think that that's why it's going to come to an end very soon.
A recent survey found that 7 in 10 parents get an average of 3 hours of sleep a night in their baby's first year. Wow. Moms, you deserve quality sleep. And here's a solution: Cozy Earth. Discover the secret to better sleep with Cozy Earth's luxurious bedding products and get an exclusive Mother's Day offer just for you. Use the code Megyn, MEGYN, for 35% off at CozyEarth.com. Cozy Earth bedding products are crafted with temperature-regulating technology, adapting to your body's needs through all phases of motherhood. Worried about commitment? Enjoy a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty on all purchases. Built to last through the hardest days and longest nights of motherhood. This Mother's Day, treat mom to the luxury she deserves with Cozy Earth bedding and sleepwear, and prioritize self-care and sleep health. Head on over to CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code Megyn for 35% off. And after placing your order, select podcast in the survey and select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Thank you so much for doing that. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.